input data, help with an event, organize our CDs and vinyl collection, create Facebook content, do something different, be interesting people, and help our local community radio station fulfill its mission to inform, empower, and engage our listening audience to take action to serve the immediate needs and the common good of our diverse community. If there's something that you might like to do, call or text 501-414-6335 or email speakupar@gmail.com. And thanks for tuning in today.
Got a bone to pick? You would if you were a vulture. This is Sandra Simron with the Lowdown on Science. Rare bearded vultures in the Spanish Pyrenees eat mammal skeletons and little else. The big birds can spend an entire day locating a skeleton. Then the vulture airlifts parts too big to swallow and repeatedly drops them onto rock outcroppings to make bite-sized bits. Finally, it hauls the morsels to its nest. But is the nutritional payoff worth all that work? Apparently, yes, says Toney Orr from Spain's Bearded Vulture Study and Protection Group. And yes, they do have one. Marcolita first quantified the food value of various sheep bones. Then he scattered full skeletons around vulture territories before they taped with cameras. The birds were surprisingly picky. They processed and ate only the most nutritious scraps, regardless of size. Bite-sized toe bones and large tibias, equally cherished. Vultures are value shoppers. One special ingredient, though, drove their sophisticated tastes. Grease. The richest bones have 50% more energy per gram than even muscle tissue. Talk about chewing the fat. I mean, bones.
Online at LOHDOWN.org. Produced by 89.
When you're ready, you might have to hit stop on the AV.
Oh.
Possible by TIAA Prep.
Oh, yeah.
You can look me in my eyes, see I'm ready for it all. Anything don't kill me, make me better. I ain't dead, nigga. You can take the pain, really shut it. And the game in the deal, still a go kill. Take my pain for the moment, but it ain't for y'all. The spirit of a heart of a killer, I'm a king. Say hanging with some cold killers, I ain't never back down. Around for never. I ain't saying hell yeah, stand and go killer. Even if I'm all alone, I stand and go get tough. Giving you get no killer, fly down with the soul of a 6'4". Separated the face, paralyzed from the waist down. The real stand-up guys of the A-sound. Can't even look me in my eyes, put your face down. I'm out of jail, look at what you gotta say now. You're only gonna inspire. All your pain is fuel my fire. You're fighting on the ground, so that's motivation. Hey, but I ain't slowing down, I ain't stop motivation. Don't stop my show, motivation. You know I don't stop my growth, motivation. Sucker can't make me suffer, let's make me strong, make me toss me like little bugs against heaven. Put anybody on top, any rebel petite. I people back to reality, G. OD still carrying me. Blackness, ready to pick all your little jokes. Tell I'm glad by the time they'll come get. Make you feel well, picture me over done with. Come with all the gotta be the drum with. All I ain't too shine, I can overcome this. Jail out of goodness, rapping just having fun with. I can be a local joker, never have one hit. New finish alone and get me jump rich. White house selling rappers getting finished. The grand hustle said, ain't it, I'ma get plenty. God with me, who can be against me? Sucker can't make me suffer, just make me tough. Motivation, it's making only gonna inspire. All your hate is fuel my fire. Fighting on the ground, so that's motivation. Hey, but I ain't slowing down, I ain't stop motivation. Don't stop my show, motivation. You know I don't stop, I grow, motivation. Sucker can't make me suffer, just make me strong and make me tough, motivation. Kill your job, Haters kill your job. Motivation. Kill your job. Tell them. Haters kill your job. Hey, motivation. Haters better kill your job. Tell them. Haters kill your job. It's motivation. Kill your job. Hate kill your job. Motivation. It's taking only gonna inspire. All your haters fuel my fire. Sliding on the ground, so that's motivation. Hey, but I ain't slowing down in this time. Motivation. Don't stop my show. Motivation. You know I don't stop. I grow. Motivation. Sucker can't make me suffer. Just make me stronger and make me tough. Motivation.
Yes, it's motivation up in here. Community Voices, you are live right here at KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people, bringing you in with TIP. Motivation is going to ground our conversation today that we cannot wait to have with you. But before we go any further, I want to make sure that we are always mindful of our gratitude. Right? We want to make sure that you know how much we appreciate your support. Every way that you support us, so many different ways. I know we talk about pledge drives and that's the financial support, but there's so many other ways that you support us with your contributions vocally, with your contributions physically, with your contributions spiritually, with your contributions emotionally. So all that you offer to us, for that we are grateful. And we want to make sure that you know that, because we would not be here if it were not for you. For what, 38? How many? 30?
I think
39?
39.
39. Woo, woo, 39 years. So thank you all for stopping right here for Community Voices with your host, the Reverend Doctor. You can call me Denise. And let me, before I go any further, make sure that you are greeted by your co-host, the illustrious Pastor Toney Orr.
Good morning. And wow, it's 2024, and this is the 40th anniversary year of KABF. 40 years on the air doing community radio, voice of the people. Just want to thank all of you once again for all that you contributed to in 2023 and over the last 39 years. And I know 2024 is going to be just another great year for KABF 88.3. So thank you for listening to the first Community Voices show of the year. So I'm very excited. I listened to the song, and for those of you in the church who said your haters make you greater. Oh,
Is that what they say in the church? So no, your mic was not on. So most of what you said was not heard. But you don't have to repeat all of it. Just what you say about that last part about the
they
song.
say your haters make you greater.
Is that what they say?
That's what they say. Your haters make you greater.
Thank you so much, Phyllis Brown, for letting us know that my Tony's mic was not on. Really appreciate it. See all of the ways that you contribute to this program. We are grateful for all of the ways that you show up for us. I want to make a couple of announcements. First of all, let me just say how grateful I am for those of you who have reached out to me all weekend long, starting last week after the show. Many of you reached out to me to support me in the face of all of the attacks from on the show on Thursday. You all have texted me, you have called me, you have sent me messages on Facebook, you have sent me messages on my DM. And I just want you to know how grateful. I mean, it just warmed my heart to hear all of the kind words that you had to say. Those of you who sent me messages through Toney, I just want you to know how grateful I am for your support. And I really appreciate all of what you all were saying. I appreciate those of you who were ready to put some Vaseline on and take your earrings off. Thank you all so much. And I did not bring it today, Toney. I have forgotten it for so many weeks. But James Ray Thompson, who is incarcerated right now, we have been in conversation off and on for quite some time. And he sent me a letter. And the letter has a message to the KABF listeners. I'm not going to try to remember it in this moment. I am going to remember to bring the card so I can read it verbatim to you so that you can hear these words from his mouth. But I want to make this announcement because it is important to me, because I keep forgetting it. I'm going to go ahead and say it now. But he also included a check in the card that he sent me with the message to everybody and to me. He said it's $8.83. So he is sending this money from where he is as an incarcerated human to say, this is how much I support you. I heard Toney talking about the pledge drive. I wanted to do whatever I could to let you know how much I support you. He sent it to Community Voices, and that means so much to me. I feel like it's a check for $8 million. $8 million. $8.83 from where he is incarcerated. And I don't have the words to adequately articulate what happens in my body in that moment that check fell out of that card onto my desk in my office. And I'm just moved by it, and I wanted to share that.
Yes, I'm like you, just listening to you mention it, it does something to me also, that no matter where we are, no matter what circumstance a person is in, if this 100,000 watt platform can reach them, and then they want to turn around and support, with very little that he has, very little,
and all that it takes to get that very little.
Yes, and you think about, when you're incarcerated, for those who have been incarcerated, that money, that's your commissary. Mm-hmm. Those are your personal items that you may need. Mm-hmm. And so to give that $8.83, that means you are sacrificing something that you need, but you're giving it to a bigger need. And so,
and think about the symbolism, right? $8.83. This is
88.3.
I'm just like, oh my goodness, I cannot wait to read the note to you. It took me a long time to even open the letter, and that's my fault. I'm not good with snail mail, but I am so grateful to you, Ray. And I know he said in the letter that he doesn't always get to listen to us as much as he used to. So whenever, I'm glad that it's on Facebook, so you can go back and pull it up at any time and listen to our shows. I really appreciate that. And you talked about this being a 100,000 watt platform. I don't think that people really recognize that when you were giving your shout outs on last Thursday, you were talking to people all over the world. So we are a global streaming platform. That's what technology can do for you. And even now, right here, we've got Charles Mugaga saying, good morning, Dr. Denise and Pastor Toney Orr, Happy New Year. And this is from Kampala, Uganda. Shout out to the children there, the Kids Gear Infant School. So excited to continue to be in relationship with you. Happy New Year to you too, to those of you who celebrate that. He said Happy New Year to us, so I want to say right back at you. If that's what you celebrate, right back at you. And so I'm really excited about knowing how far, right? How far and how wide. And so, yes, we need to talk about Arkansas because that is where we are rooted. But our conversations span the world. Like the issues are world issues. The issues are global issues. And so we got to talk about it all. And that's what we do right here at KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. And on this show in particular, Community Voices, on this show in particular, in order to have this worldwide conversation, it is important for me to center Blackness. So we're going to center Blackness in the context of how we struggle toward collective liberation. That's what we do right here at KABF 88.3 FM for Community Voices, which is live with Reverend Dr. You can call me Denise and the Pastor Toney Orr. So I'm super excited.
Yes, and I can't wait. And I'm gonna have to get Charles's information so he can connect with our radio station in Kampala. Mm-hmm. So be able to do some things that he may be able to do some things with our radio station there. So it's going to be that's exciting. That's something to look forward to this year.
I want to make just a couple of announcements. One, the exhibit, the Whitfield Lavelle exhibit is still happening at the Arkansas Museum of Fine Arts, 501 East 9th Street, not very far from the radio station at all. Those of us who are walkers, you can walk there. It's not a problem. But you need to see this exhibit. I am not being hyperbolic in this moment. You need to see this exhibit. I watched Toney see the exhibit, because we went that Friday when we thought we were going to play
Oh,
dominoes, and then they were having this other event, and so we could not make it to the community lounge. And so you went into the exhibit and I stayed back and I just watched you, and it was amazing just to watch you go through the exhibit. Do you have any words?
Oh my, you just need to go. And the one thing that I'm going to say, as you go through the different exhibits, as you go through the different paintings and pictures, it would be hard pressed for you to look and not recognize someone. There were a couple of pictures that I stopped at, and when I tell you, I looked at this picture in every way you could, from the side, from the bottom. I looked at Denise and I said, "That's my uncle. That's my uncle." It took me backwards. It took me back to a place, and I'm looking, and I'm like, that's my. It can't be nobody else but my uncle.
But that's interesting, because I can show you a picture and tell you that that's my uncle.
Yes.
And so that's why this exhibit is so powerful, that you are going to see your family reflected in these, in the faces of the images that he has on display. And then there are some powerful moments when you see, I can't wait for you to see the picture with the man and the flags. Remember the man with the American flags? You have got to see this. You've got it between now and January 14th.
Please go.
That's the last day. It is free of charge. I walked in the other day, they didn't even ask for my zip code. Usually they ask for your zip code, then they start asking for your name. Well, they might be. Yeah, that's true. They might be used to me, but I just walked right on in. And then also, we did play dominoes in the Museum of Fine Arts, the Arkansas Museum of Fine Arts, on the 3rd floor, which is the community lounge. We played on Friday night from 5, it was supposed to be from 5 to 7, but we looked, who was it? Max said, "Is they coming to get us?"
Security.
We played until after 8. They did. They came and they were like, we close at 8. We close at 8. And so we had a great time. Oh my goodness, we had a great time. Yes.
Overlooking the city. It's a open space, and with these big floor to ceiling windows, and you could see so much, and just playing and conversating and having fun, and then being able to look at the lights of the city. It's an awesome experience.
Right, so you can come early. You can come at 4:30 and go through the exhibit, and it take 30 minutes. For those of you who only take 30 minutes, for those of you like me, you need to come at least 4 o'clock, because you need the entire hour in order to experience the fullness and the richness of the exhibit. Or you can stay until 7 o'clock. You can leave the domino table, and you still have a whole hour to go in and see the exhibit. So we really encourage you to make your way to see Passages by Whitfield Lavelle at the Arkansas Museum of Fine Arts, 501 East 9th Street. There's also an exhibit from another African-American man. His name is Chooks. I want to say that's his name. I'm just using my understanding of grammar based on my training. So that's why I'm calling it Chooks. If that's not the way you say his name, please somebody call me and correct me so that I can say it right. But that exhibit is happening at Pyramid. I think sometimes we forget that Pyramid has an art gallery. We talk so much about the books it's a bookstore, but it's also connected to an art gallery. It's Pyramid Art, Books, and Custom Framing. And so that is another exhibit that we want to point you to guide you, to lead you, to push you towards at 1001 Wright Avenue. Again, it's walkable. I know it's walkable because I've walked it, and I live in downtown. So those two announcements I want to make sure that you are aware of these culturally significant experiences for every person of our community that, again, is centered and rooted in the Black experience. Black meaning every member of the African diaspora. Do you have any announcements?
No announcements.
Okay. So I want to get started with our tidbit. Today is Tuesday, January 2nd. So in 1944, on Tuesday, January 2nd, in 1944, Willie James Howard, a Black 15-year-old, is lynched by 3 white men in Suwannee County, Florida, after one of the men accuses Howard of writing a love note to his daughter. In 1944, on January 2nd, which is today in 2024, Willie James Howard, a black 15-year-old, is lynched by 3 white men in Sawubona County, Florida, after one of the men accuses Howard of writing a love note to his daughter. I wanted to make sure that it's just amazing to me how the universe aligns sometimes in my life, especially when I'm trying to work on conversations and preparing for this conversation, in particular with community voices. This happening in Florida, and what we're going to talk about in just a moment with Jordan Davis happened in Florida. It's just amazing because I did not read the tidbit before I started prepping for the show. But this conversation that we are about to have about get on your job, those of you who see the flyer, that's what it says, that's the title. I always title the shows. The title is Get On Your Job. And so T.I. is saying, tell them, you better tell them. You need to tell the haters that you need to get on your job, because all of the hating that you do is fuel to my fire. It inspires me. It acts as motivation. It does not stop me. It does not silence me. As a matter of fact, it makes me stronger. It makes me tougher. It makes me grow. So you need to get on your job. You need to get on your job of doing what you do to motivate people, to inspire people to reach the height of their potential. And even in no matter what your situation is. So when we're talking about Ray, who's right now incarcerated, even in your situation, because T.I. was incarcerated, he's saying, you talking about me now because I'm incarcerated, but I won't be here. This is not the story of my life, just this moment in time when I am going through this. There is more to me. There's more to my story. And no matter where I am, I'm still going to live into the power of who I am. And when my situation changes, I'm going to be just that much more. What they say, more better. I'm going to be even more better and than I am right now. And so when you're listening to T.I., like, I don't know about you, Toney, but when I listen to this kind of rap, this kind of conscious rap, I'm not talking about rapping about calling people N-words and B's and all that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the conscious rap, which is how it started, right? It's a consciousness. You can't help but get this feeling in your body, right?
Yeah.
Not just the feeling that makes you move, but the feeling that makes you square your shoulders, the feeling that makes you raise your head up, the feeling that lets you know, yes, no matter what people are saying about me, no matter what people are trying to do to me, I still am. I am that I am, and I'm going to continue to be. And so I love this song by T.I. He's like, hey, get on your job. Those of you who are trying to silence me, trying to hate, you're hating on me because of who I am. It's not going to stop me. In fact, it's going to help me to grow. And so T.I. is talking about this motivation that he gets from being inspired. And this song is what some people would call gangster rap. That's what some people would call it. Because if you listen to, I'm listening to the censored version, right? Because there's certain songs, there's certain words that I do not allow to enter into my psyche, right? So I'm not going to listen to the explicit version that has all of the N words, and I'm not going to do that. That's just me. So this kind of music, though, is what has been weaponized against, when we talk about race relations, it's been weaponized against people of color, Black folks in particular. So you've got a whole group of people who ascribe to the system of whiteness, who are complicit in the system of white inhumanity, who considers this kind of music, especially when you play it loud and it's thumping in your car, because that bass can't help but thump. It's thump. And then if you have a system like me in the car, you can see the speakers vibrate when you got it playing loud. And I liked it. I like to feel it all through my body. When you play this kind of loud music, you've got a segment of people who the world has labeled white, who consider you now to be a thug. If you listen to this kind of music, if you allow this kind of energy to enter your space, then you are a thug. That's what you are. And then I must protect myself from you, because you are now, this music, this energy, your way of living, your way of life, your culture is now offensive to me. It's something that I have to protect myself from. It disrupts my comfort level. And so now, because I'm uncomfortable, I've got to do what it takes to make me comfortable. So these people end up damaging Black bodies. So we're looking at Willie James Howard, a Black 15-year-old. And so this white man accuses, we don't know whether it actually happened or not, accuses him of writing this note to his daughter. And so now you're uncomfortable. because the system of white inhumanity is rooted and grounded in this idea that white women need to be protected from black folks, black men in particular, right? That you have to. And so anything that threatens the purity of the white, like this whole myth, this whole false narrative of the purity of the white woman, we've got to protect. And so because I could not stop him from writing the letter, because he is free to do that. He's free to write a letter. Because I could not stop him, he's now made me uncomfortable showing this affection to my daughter. How can I stop him? How can I silence him? How can I remind him that he is not who God says he is, or who is his creator, the universe? He is who he is how I define him. I tell him who you are, and you are inferior, and you are not worthy to write this letter to my daughter. And so now your body is on the line, and I believe that I have the right to take your body, desecrate your body, just because of who I am, who I believe myself to be, who the world has convinced me that I am, as a white person who believes in the idea of superiority. And so this happens to Willie James in 1944, but it happened to Jordan Davis. Oh, let me stop to see if you have something to say.
No, go ahead.
So it happened to Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis was in Florida, in Jacksonville, Florida, when he was with his friends, and they were listening to a rap song. They were listening to Beef by Lil Reese. They were listening to the rap song. They had the music turned up loud, like I did this weekend when I was listening to this song in my car. And there was this white man named Michael David Dunn who they were at a gas station. They're parked at the gas station, and they're going in to buy cigarettes and chewing gum. They want to buy cigarettes and chewing gum because they are about to go to the mall. They're about to do some cruising and strolling. And Jordan Davis has a girlfriend who works in the mall. So he wants to make sure his breath is fresh. You know how you get ready, You might get a little kiss, and so you're getting ready. And so they're just enjoying themselves. They're listening to this music, and the music is loud. They are in the parking lot. There are blank spaces. There are empty spaces around them, like more than one empty space around them. So this particular man, Michael David Dunn, did not have to park beside him, but he did. He parked beside him, and the first thing that he says to his fiance, Roar, her last name is Roar, Rhonda Roar, who is in the car with him, is, "I hate this thug music. I hate their culture." Like, that's the first thing he says when he pulls up and intentionally parks beside the car with the loud music he's already offended by, but he parks beside him anyway. During his trial, because he ends up killing Jordan Davis. During his trial, there was another white man who gets on the stage, and he says, the white man, they are interrogating the white man, asking him the questions, and they say, "Did you hear the music when you drove up?" He said, "Absolutely." He said, "Did you park beside him?" He said, "No, I didn't park beside him because I didn't really want to be that close to it." And he said, "But if you had been close to them, what would you have said to them?" He said, "I would have said, 'Hey, I appreciate that. I love this song. That's my favorite song,' right?" So this particular white man is not caught up in this idea that this kind of music defines the character of the person who is listening to it. But Michael David Dunn is of that mindset as a white man. And so he tells the young man in the car, because Jordan Davis is in the passenger seat. So he tells the young black man who is driving the car, he's like, he says, "Turn the music down. I can't hear myself think. Turn that music down. I can't hear myself think." And so the young man turns the music down. But Jordan Davis says, "Wait a minute. We ain't got to turn this music down. Turn it back up." So the young man turns it back up. And so now the white man is truly offended. He was already offended when he heard the music, because he didn't like the music, because he uses the music to characterize the people that are listening to it. So because you are listening to this music, that means you are a certain type of black person, the one that we call thug, and therefore you make me uncomfortable with your thug life. And so now I'm mad, and then I tell you to turn it down. One person complies, but the other person has the audacity not to comply with my command about what you can do in your car in a public space. And so now I'm mad. And so Jordan Davis is having this conversation. They're kind of going back and forth. And the white man's like, "You talking to me?" Jordan Davis is like, "Yes, I'm talking to you." So what you mean you talking to me? So they have this conversation, this interaction. And Michael David Dunn pulls out a gun and shoots into this car 10 times. Shoots into the car 10 times. He kills Jordan Davis, and he dies in Jacksonville, Florida, at the hands of this white man who is upset because they would not turn down this loud music that he considers to be thug music. He goes on trial. the first trial ends in a hung jury because the jury, it's hung. They have a hung jury because the jurors could not agree on the first charge, which was murder in the first degree. But they did settle on attempted murder in the second degree. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute. If Jordan Davis is dead, how is it attempted murder if he's dead? You are deadlocked on first degree murder, even though the child was murdered, but you're not deadlocked on attempted murder, even though the child is dead. I couldn't understand it. I could not understand it. And neither could his parents. And this is the part that struck me. His mama is Lucy Macbeth. I did not know that. Did you know that Jordan Davis's mama was Lucy Macbeth? This is how I came to this conversation. Reading about Lucy Macbeth, who in Georgia, she is a congresswoman in Georgia, and they have written her out of, they have drawn her out of the district that she represents with the new map in Georgia. She no longer is in the jurisdiction of the people that she currently serves. They have drawn her out of her district. They are now forcing her to run in a new district because of this gerrymandering that's going on, this violence against voters that's happening as a result of these redistricting of maps. All of this, I could not believe it. So I'm interested in her story. I'm reading about Lucy Macbeth, only to learn that she is Jordan Davis's mother, who was killed by the white man for having loud music. Did you know that, Tony?
No, I did.
You know Lucy Macbeth?
No.
Do you know about the situation in Georgia?
Yes, I did.
Okay, what do you know about the situation with the maps? Just about the maps.
Okay. I know the Republican legislation in Georgia redrew, the gerrymander, redrew the congressional voting lines in both voting districts, and I know Georgia, filed a lawsuit saying that it violated the Civil Rights Act of the Voting Rights Act of 1964, and that because you cannot, anything that has to deal with race, if it's going to dilute a race, then it becomes unconstitutional. And from my understanding is that the lawsuit was thrown out and said that
they agreed with them. And so Georgia had to redraw the map. They agreed that the map that was drawn was unconstitutional because it was drawn intentionally to favor Republicans in the district. And it intentionally diluted the power of not just Black voters, but Black and brown, Latino voters as well. So Black and brown folks. So people with more melanin in their skin, it diluted their power at the voting box. And so Georgia's court says you got to redraw the map so that you can do away with this disparity in giving Republicans more power to secure their votes. So they did. They redrew the map. And they created a Black majority district in the new map that is created. And that was presented to the court again to say, hey, you told us that we needed to make sure that there was a Black majority voting district. We did that. Here's the new map. The new map is now the one that has drawn out Lucy Macbeth, and but it drew out Lucy Macbeth. It did create another majority Black voting district, but it did not change the fact that the map is skewed in favor of the Republicans. It did not change that part. And so the question now becomes, well, if the problem with the first map was that it was unconstitutional because of the way it skewed the vote along racial lines, if it continues to do that with this new map, it still has the same problem. How come it's not unconstitutional now? The judge ruled that this map can stand, and that is why Lucy Macbeth has to run in another district in order to secure her seat. And so the question is, how is it that the same problem exists with the fact that the map is skewed towards the Republican Party, and that was considered unconstitutional in the first map? The same thing is happening in the second map. Why is it not still unconstitutional? And the judge says, well, you were arguing about the Black district. We gave you the Black district. So now that you have this Black district, so what's the problem? If you want to if you want to challenge the constitutionality of it or the unconstitutionality of it, then you need to do that in a separate form. You need to file a separate claim against the court, right? And so the people are, okay, we'll do that, but what does that mean? That's going to take time. So that means by the time they have to go and file another suit about the fact that there's still the voting power of the Black and brown people in Georgia in this area has been diluted. By the time you do that, the election will already have taken place. And so I'm reading about this, and I'm reading about Lucy McBath, and I realize this is not the first time that they have come for her seat. It is not the first time. And I'm like, what is it about this woman that that makes the haters want to get on their job to end up motivated and inspiring her to do even more? Because she says, oh, I'm going to run again. I have no problem. Whatever district you tell me I have to run in, I'm going to do that, just like T.I. Whatever you're doing to me, it's not going to stop me. As a matter of fact, I don't stop, I grow. You ain't know? And so this is what Lucy McBath is saying. So I'm reading, I'm trying to figure out why are they after this particular woman? Can you ever stop, like, sometimes you're like, what is it about this person? What is it about her, this Black woman? And so when I learned about her son being killed, I'm like, oh, okay. Because when her son was killed, then of course, she took the anger. She was motivated by the haters. She was motivated by the injustices. She was motivated by the unconstitutionality of what was happening to her family, because her husband ends up losing his job for daring to stand up for his son, who was murdered at the hand of this white man, just because a white man thought something about the music that he was listening to. And because the Black man, their son, dared to say, you don't tell me what to do in my own car. And so she's now motivated. So she's fighting against these gun laws in our country. Right? I'm like, oh, look at these dots. We really have to take the time to connect dots, right, Tom? We've been talking about that. So her primary platform, because she was just going to run locally on the state level. She was going to run on the local level for the House. But then after this happened, and she's now became the spokesperson about gun violence, and she's working with moms. She's working with these different groups. And so now she's saying, listen, we got to have some more sensible gun laws in this country, because this is ridiculous. And I don't think she's the only one who believes that the gun laws in this country are ridiculous, right? But when you begin to talk about gun laws, the system of white inhumanity wants to connect that dot to the Second Amendment. But it's a false narrative that they use to get people to believe that, oh, no, you can't mess with the guns because that's a violation of your right. And it is not a violation of your right to have sensible gun laws. And so I'm like, maybe that's why they are after her, because thinking about changing the laws around guns makes some people scared that they're not going to have their guns. Why do you need so many guns? That becomes a question for me. Why do you have to have so many guns? Oh, right, I forgot. It's because we're getting ready for a race war, right? Like these people these mass shooters, sometimes they have this manifesto about how they wanted to kick off the race. The young man, I don't want to call his name, who killed the people at Emmanuel Baptist Church. He wants to kick off a race. Like this, so I need all these guns. I got to get ready for this race war because I'm so scared of what's going to happen. And so I'm reading this and I'm like, okay, anytime a person, a Black person in particular, raises up and says, this is what you're not going to do to me. This is what you're not going to do to my family. This is what you're not going to do to my mentality. This is what you're not going to do to my mindset. This becomes the fuel that people who have bought into this system of whiteness, this system of white inhumanity, uses to say, now I'm scared. So Michael David Dunn says he was scared for his life. That's why he shot into the car and killed Jordan Davis. Like, what you scared of? So, well, he said, we arguing back and forth. He's using cuss words. I don't know what he's about to do. But they didn't have a gun. So all he about to do is talk. All he about to do is get his motivation out. Like, you is not about to tell me what I can do. Like, that's what we do. Like, we make sure that you know I can stand firm on mine. But I ain't got to kill you to stand firm. Like, that's not what Mike Jordan Davis says. Jordan Davis like, look, I'm just letting you know. You don't tell me what I can and cannot do in our own private property. And Michael David Dunn is asked, why you shoot 10 times? Okay, first of all, he shot into the car. They start driving away from him. So they are trying to retreat, right? Like, we're trying to get away from you, sir, because this you have gone all the way left. We're trying to get away. He's still shooting behind. Shoots 10 times. Why are you still shooting if they are driving away from you? He was so scared because he thought that they were going to kill him. Because remember, after all, they are thugs. And so I say, you know what? Let me look up this word, thug. Tony, you know the word thug.
Mhm.
Have you been called a thug?
Quite a few times.
I don't think anybody has ever called me a thug. Because mostly they use it for black men. So what would be the word for a black woman that they want to call it? Like way back in the day, back, it would have been a moll, M-O-L-L. That's what they would have used for the woman. But I don't know what they would say these days. But the word thug keeps, it kept coming up because I'm reading the letters that Michael David Dunn is writing while he is incarcerated. You know how he's waiting for his trial date. So he's in jail and he's writing to his grandmother. He's writing to his daughter. He's writing to his fiance. He's writing to unknown people, like all of these letters. And this word thug continually comes up in his letters. He wants to remind people. He's trying to prepare them. If they call you, remind them that these were thugs. If they come in and talk to you, remember that these were it keeps coming up in his letters. Like, what is it about this word thug? And so I'm looking up all of this information on the word thug. I want to know the etymology of it. Like, where did it come from? Who was using it? It came from actually talking about people in India. So all of this. But now what has happened is that this word thug is now, in many instances when it's used, it's a substitute for the N-word. So when I call you thug, what I'm really saying is I can't use the N-word anymore. White people have come to understand it. I do not want to have a conversation about who can use the N-word. I don't want to have that conversation. I know that conversation is out there. I'm here for it on another day, but not right now. So we know that we've got this world now where we say it is unacceptable for you as a white person in particular to use this word. We can't stop you from using it, but you're not going to use it in public. You're not going to say it to me. You can't use it out loud. Like, you're not going to do that. You're going to end up losing your job. They're going to cancel you, all of those kinds of things. And so this is my way now of categorizing the same people that I would have called the N-word. Now I'm going to use this word thug because I'm going to code it. This is now coded language. So when I say thug, then I need you to hear, I'm talking about black folks, I'm talking about black men, and I'm talking about black men in particular who I believe are about their life. That life that would dare them to listen to this kind of music and then dare them to listen to it loud in my space, because I feel like I can do whatever I want to do and people are supposed to do whatever I tell them to do. Like, how dare you do this? And so I'm like, okay, but are black men the only ones who listen to this music?
No, wow, there's so much to unpack in all this. We talk about thug. I think a lot of it goes back to there were certain rappers, hip hop artists who I think Tupac had a song "Thug Life."
And he had it tattooed across his
Thug Life, and so they started, especially when they wanted to censor music, especially hip hop. And they call it this thuggish music just because of some of the lyrics, just because of what was surrounding a lot of the hip hop scene. I remember when the word thug was used to talk about mobsters. They were called thugs.
Yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah, and here's
not how it started, but yes.
Yeah, here's something that's so interesting, and you mentioned it a second ago. I had pulled up to service stations. I pulled up in parking lots, and a lot of people have associated that when a car pull up and they got the spinners going, on the wheels, they spinning, and they got the tinted glass and it's bumping, and all of a sudden a white male gets out or a white female gets out the car, and nobody says anything. But if a black male drives up, and with the same car and gets out, then people have this, oh, they must be a drug dealer, they root, they probably strapped, we have to be careful. And, it's so amazing because there are times when I pull up to a service station and there's this pickup truck that pulls up and it's bumping Johnny Cash. It's bumping one of these country artists, and they get out, do you automatically assume, oh, that's a redneck, and so it's how this music or how this white inhumanity has put this label on black people that says that if they're doing this, then this what they must be.
Right, and so I'm glad you mentioned that because that's a great segue because that was my question. Are Black men in particular the only ones listening to this music? And so there have been articles that have been written that say that 80% of the listeners, 80% of the consumers of this, even the gangster rap, the hardcore gangster rap, are white youth between the ages of 15 and 34. Like this is who is listening to it. This is the largest group of consumers. And I wanted to go with that argument. I wanted to say that and put that out there. And I wanted to defend it and support it. But I needed more information. I needed to do some more research. And I found out that you really cannot argue that point. The reason you cannot argue that point is because when you go and buy music, does anybody ask you your race? Like who's taking down, who's recording what the race is of the person who's buying music, right? So they're saying, well, if it's in this neighborhood, which is predominantly white, and the record is being sold here, then it must be white people who are buying it. And so that's how they're trying to do it. It's like, you can't do that either, because you don't know who is traveling to whatever neighborhood to buy whatever music. So I could not support this argument that says 80% of the consumers are white youth. I could not support that argument, but there is another argument that I can support, and I'll talk about it in just a minute. Caller, you're live on the air, KBF 88.3. Thanks for calling.
Oh, cool. Thanks for putting me on the air. Happy New Year's, everybody out there in KBF land. Is Russell around?
She said, is who around?
Russell, Happy New Year.
Russell Carpenter.
Oh, no, Russell doesn't come in until later on today, but you would have to call the office number to get a hold of him.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. Hey, it's Zach Taylor. Midday Mixtape every Wednesday from 12 to 2, guys. I'll try him later. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
So the other argument, so can't use that argument because you really cannot identify who it is that's buying music. So that argument, for me, fell flat. So somebody else, if you have more research to support that argument, that's fine. But for me, then that is not how this works. What is she saying? That's not how this works. So the other argument, though, is about, who's listening to the music and how you're able to actually trace that. And it goes back to who's allowed to play the music. So we were talking about so the argument is about the radio stations who have now taken control of the consumption of music. So the radio stations are now the ones who get the credit for making a song more popular, right? That's who gets the credit. It really starts in the strip club. If we really want to talk about how the songs get made, they get made in the strip club. But for the purposes of this conversation, so you've got the radio stations who promote a certain kind of music, and the promotion of that music drives its popularity in the community. Once it drives the popularity, then the consumers begin to say, okay, I like that song, I've heard that song, and so now I want to buy it. And so what has happened is the larger stations, the top 40 stations, as opposed to like the KABFs of the world, or the smaller stations, not necessarily Black stations, but the smaller stations who don't have the money, but in Black stations in particular, they don't get the same response from the people that are the marketers, the ad agencies that support the top 40 radio stations. The Black stations do not get that same support. So since they do not get the same support, they do not have the same drive, they do not have the same reach, and so they cannot reach the same number of consumers. And that is by design, because when rap and hip hop, all of that first came out, they would only let the Black radio stations play it on the weekend at night, because the ad agencies would say, we're not going to work with you, we're not going to do business with you if you play that kind of music. But when the top 40 stations began to play it, because they could see they could see the value in the music, because if we could get the people to buy the music, we could get the people to buy the ads, then that's going to help us with our business model. If I can show you how this profits us to use this music that we say is for thugs, and we can use it in the mainstream for white youth in particular, now this is the argument that we can use to say, this is how we continue to commodify Black bodies. We continue to fuel the commodification of Black bodies so that it use it as fuel for the system of capitalism. Now that is the conversation that I can support. And so you call me a thug because I'm listening to this music, yet you understand that it has value, and so you play it and you push it in the white stream the white mainstream, and now it becomes popular there, but they don't get called thugs for listening to it. Right? You don't. So you have this coded language that you use. So it must not be the music that makes the person a thug. Goes back to how they're using the word thug now as a substitute for the N word. It can't be the music because you got white people listening to it too. Why are they not called thugs? And so you're coding the language. It's a certain group of people that uses the word because they're trying to, what they call it? It's a dog whistle. I want you to know what kind of person I'm talking about when I say thug, because that's going to bring up black and it's going to bring up male in particular. And we want to categorize them a certain way because we need to in order to justify our fear of them that gives us the right to kill them. Because that's all I can do. I can't stop them. I can't silence them. I can't stop their rights. But I can kill them.
And so going back to the trial, where you said the jury was hung on first-degree murder.
The first jury, yes.
Yeah. And so this is where the justice system, to me, really becomes skewed, really becomes messed up. So because they hung, they couldn't come to a decision on first-degree murder. So a lot of times what happened, they will say, you know what? We may not get him on first-degree murder, but since there were several other people involved who were being shot at also, now that becomes attempted murder. So forget about the person that's dead. We may not be able to get that. But because we can get attempted murder, then let's go for attempted murder. And that's where it gets skewed to me, because if it was reversed, it wouldn't be an attempted murder thing. It'd be murder one. Another thing is that when you talk about the people who listen to this music, and let's be honest, let's be real honest, Black and brown culture fuels every other culture.
Absolutely.
It fuels every other culture. You know, I was watching a documentary yesterday, and they were talking about MTV and how MTV, when it first came, did not want to even play Black artists unless they were crossover artists. They would play Michael Jackson, they would play some other people. But when Run DMC got together with Aerosmith and did Walk This Way, and they played it on MTV, when it debuted on MTV, they got so many sponsors for it. And that's when MTV came up with MTV Raps. And they saw the popularity of it. And that's when they found out that white middle class kids were buying these albums. And that's when they started to come out with all this advisory, all that. They tried to fight against it. But the money that was being made was so great, that, eventually, who was that? Al Gore's wife, Tipper Gore, who went to Congress, talked about all these lyrics and stuff. Eventually, that slid away. You didn't hear anything else about it because so much money was being made. And the more the more gangster, as they call it, the more gangster it became, the more white middle class children want to buy it. And you are right. The one thing that is so hard to understand is that what's the guy named David Dunn?
Michael David Dunn.
What if one of his relatives, what if his son, what if one of his friends was pulled up playing that music? Would you tell him to turn it down?
No, absolutely not. And so I want to get these comments in. Phyllis Brown says that there's a law in California that's pending to outlaw lowriders. And so I was asking her, like, lowriders, I didn't know if he was talking about pants, I didn't know. Talking about cars. So there's it's
Hispanic community.
In the Hispanic community. So these are people with more melanin in their bodies, right? That are non-white. And so she says thugs are criminalized and identified as Black youth. Lowriders are characterized as Black and Latino. So she's giving me more information about the law, which I am going to look up. Here's another comment from Raman. Thug is often associated with violence. Black men have become the face of violence, whether it's music, television, or just disgruntled daughters with a bloodlust for revenge. We are attacked daily. These things are used to justify our murder or as justification for ill feelings toward Black people as a whole, male and female. I want to read that again. Thug, the word thug, is often associated with violence. Black men have become the face of violence, whether it's music, television, or just disgruntled daughters with a bloodlust for revenge. We are attacked daily. These things are used to justify our murder or as justification for ill feelings toward Black people as a whole, male and female. I agree with that 100%. But here's another dot though. Another dot to connect, right? So you say that the word thug is often used to associate Black men in particular, but Black people as a whole with violence. I think that we have to continue to push to expand the use of the word, the definition of the word violent. Because when you talk about violence in this context, we're talking about, Michael David Dunn says he's scared because he thought they were going to kill him. They had no weapons. He didn't see any weapons. He only came up with the weapons defense after he realized that he was in trouble because he thought he was going to get away. Because they go on home. He kills Jordan Davis and they go right on home with their wine and they're going to celebrate. And so he thinks, so when he realizes, oh no, they're coming for me, I've got to have a defense. And so what's the default defense for whiteness who kills Black bodies? The default defense is I was scared. So he comes up, he makes up this idea. And so we talk about violence in that way. But there's also an argument that we can make about Donald Trump being called a thug. You can call Donald Trump.
They have called him.
Yeah, that's why I said we can make this argument because your behavior, right? You may not have, and I'm not sure he hasn't killed anybody, but I haven't read it. I haven't seen any proof, any evidence that he has. So you might not be physically killing people, but the violence that you cause with your ideology, with your business ventures, with your campaign platform. This is the violence that you have when you don't want to fund community programs, social programs, when you don't want to empower the voices of the vote at the voting ballot. Like these kinds of acts that damage the lifestyles of people. This is violence as well. And so it's interesting that I want to create this subculture with this word thug. I'm going to use it as coded language. I'm going to make black men the face of it so you'll know to be scared of them every time they show up. But I can take this same word and this same mindset that you've created and apply it to your people as well.
Yes, when you said that, it's and then when you talk about Jordan Davis, you think, what did it happen in Florida? Florida has one of their stand your ground law is just ridiculous because it doesn't. You don't have to have a weapon. All you have to do, if you're a Black person and you raise your voice, that can be considered threatening, and then you can stand your ground. But it's amazing, as you said, Denise, that when Black people rise up and protest and talk about the injustice and talk about using your voice and talk about we're not going to take this anymore, they will take those leaders who are protesting, and say, because you had this, you was talking this, you were talking and you were pointing out these things, and somebody in the crowd went and did something. Did you actually, they try to get you with conspiracy awards. You incited them to go do this, and you're responsible. But when Donald Trump did the same thing, and people went and attacked the most sacred place in America, the Capitol, in politics, it's like, oh, no, he didn't really do that. They did that on their own. Well, if that's the case, why is it that when Black protesters or Black leaders do the same thing, why are they targeted as being insightful?
It's about the power of the voice, and that's another reason why it was important for me to play T.I. So important on so many levels. First of all, because of the music that Jordan, the kind of music that caused Jordan Davis to die, but his father. So after they were, I'm thinking about the book, and so I want to make sure that it's 10 o'clock. Oh Oh my goodness, your girl Lola is in the house. It's 10 o'clock. Oh, let me just say this really quickly before we go. There are some resources that help with this conversation. Two books, well, one book in particular about Jordan Davis. It's not his life story, but it helps you understand the conversation even more. Dear Martin by Nick Stone. And then she also writes a sequel to Dear Martin called Dear Justice. So I want to throw those two resources out there. For those of you who are readers, I really encourage you to read those books. I think they were written for young adults, so they are easy reads. I read both of them in one day. You can do it. Dear Martin and Dear Justice by Nick Stone, Black woman, author, artist, amazing. You would enjoy these books to help you have more conversation about this as we leave. So you can hear your girl Lola coming in to give us some motivation. How we're gonna inspire. It's fuel to my fire. Yeah, she's about to do that for the next 2 hours right here. And we are going, wait a minute, I need to get this in here. Here, I want to make sure I get this comment in. I know it's 10 o'clock. It says, Denise is complicit in this. There we go. Sometimes I feel you don't believe Black males should be entrusted with a companion or children due to our alleged violent behavior. Denise is complicit in this. Sometimes I feel like you don't believe Black males should be entrusted with a companion or children due to our alleged violent behavior. And so I didn't want to leave it out because I didn't want people to think that if it's something that's negative about me that I wouldn't say it. But no. I wanted to make sure that we put that in there. I don't have a comment right now because it's 10:01. I will comment at another time. But on my way out, I want to play this song to get us ready for your girl Lola about to come in with 2 hours of jazz. You will be listening to Jill Scott. And Jill Scott is singing for us, Hate on Me. And here we go, right here at KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people.